Okay, so how does the actual gameplay of poker work? Well, the version I'm teaching is Texas Hold'em, which is the most commonly played type. So everybody gets two cards. Everybody at the table gets two cards. These are called your hole cards. Okay, and play starts directly to the left of the dealer. So the player directly to the left of the dealer is called the small blind. The small blind has to put in a certain amount of chips blind. They don't have a say in the matter. And then directly to the left of them is the big blind. They put in more chips than the small blind, typically double the amount. So hypothetically, let's say that this chip is worth 25 cents, and let's say the blinds are 25 cents, 50 cents. Well, the small blind's going to put in 25 cents. The big blind's probably going to put in 50 cents. And these are just, you can set whatever blinds you want if you're playing a home game. You know, you could have $1, $2, $5, $10, 5 cents, 10 cents, whatever you want to do, right? But yeah, this guy's this guy's the small blind. This guy's the big blind. The dealer is what's known as the button. I don't have a button because I have a cheap set from Walmart, but I don't know. You'd have to use something. I'm going to use these blueberries from my kid's play set. There we go. That's the dealer button. Anyway, so yeah, the dealer's last to act. There's kind of other nicknames for these other positions at the table. So directly after the dealer is usually called under the gun. All right, and that's kind of the worst position at the table. I'll get into a second. I'll get into why later. Let's see, next. Actually, skip that guy. The dealer. So the dealer's the dealer. Then right before the dealer, sometimes called the cutoff. Right, it's kind of the last guy before the dealer. And then the guy before him, some people call that the hijack. Anyway, this is a poker table with 6 people. Anyway, so what happens is we put the blinds in. So initially, action starts on under the gun. So this guy looks at his cards and then decides if he wants to join the hand. So in this case, the price to join the hand is 50 cents. So he can either put in 50 cents to stay in the hand, raise, so put in more than 50 cents. Let's say he raises to $1.50. Let's say these red chips are $1. So he could raise, bring it up to $1.50, or he could fold. And that means he gives up his cards. He doesn't have to put any money in, but he's not going to win the hand, right? So he's just kind of giving up, okay? Those are your 3 options in that situation. So let's say the under the gun guy folds. Let's say he folds. Then we go to the hijack. Let's say he also folds, right? Okay. And then we go to the cutoff, and let's say he decides to enter the pot, and he decides to raise to $1.50. Okay, and we're sitting here as the dealer, and now we've got a decision to make, right? So cutoff raised to $1.50. So now in our position, in order to enter the hand, we could call. That'd mean put in $1.50. We could fold, just chuck our hands in the middle, or we could raise. And so let's say, okay, he put in $1.50. Maybe I want to raise to $4, so I'd put in 4 reds. Or maybe I want to raise to $5, and let's say this blue chip's $5, so I'd put in a $5 chip. By the way, when you're raising, you want to announce that you're raising. Some places you play at, if you just put in 1 chip, they'll interpret that as a call, not a raise, and they'll just make change for you. But anyway, so looking at my hand, what do I have? I have 10-8 offsuit. Yeah, facing a raise, I'm probably just going to fold this hand. You know, you may do differently. I would say I'd probably not play that hand. If those cards were the same suit, like if it was 10-8 of diamonds, I might call there. But 10-8 offsuit, I'm probably not going to play against a raise. But anyway, so then action goes over to the blinds. This guy's in at a discount, right? So he's got he's got 25 cents already in. So this guy raised to $1.50. So it's only $1.25 more to play. You know, depending on his cards, maybe he calls, maybe he doesn't. Let's say he folds. And then we're up over to the big blind. He's got 50 cents in already. Let's say he decides to call. Okay. So then all this money goes to the middle. This is the money that's in the middle. These are the dead cards. Now it's the cutoff versus the big blind, okay? Then we're going to go to what's called the flop. The flop is the first 3 community cards, right? So let's okay, there's the flop. 6, 5, king, all different suits. When a flop is all different suits, we call that rainbow. Anyway, what would happen now is that action would start with the big blind, right? Directly, so only under the gun goes first before the flop. After the flop, action starts on the small blind. But in this case, small blind already folded, so action starts with the big blind. Big blind can decide to bet or check. And check just means don't put in any money. And one way you signal you're checking is you do this. Check, you know, those both mean check. So let's say that the big blind checks, and it's over on the cutoff. And let's say this guy decides to continue, and he decides to bet, I don't know, let's say he bets 250. Okay, so there's 250. Now, action goes back to big blind, and he has to decide if he wants to call, which means equal the size of this bet, or he can raise, or he can fold. Those are the 3 options there. So let's say he decides to call. Okay, to the turn we go. First 3 cards are called the flop. Next 3 are called the turn. Excuse me, not next 3. Next one is called the turn. Last one's called the river. Turn. Okay, there's the turn. Oh, by the way this all works is that your hand at any given time is the best 5-card hand possible with your 2 cards plus the 4 cards on the board. Or 3 cards, 4 cards, 5 cards, right? These are the community cards. You have them in common. So let's just keep simulating the hand. Let's say the big blind decides to check, and let's say that the cutoff decides to check. Why not? Maybe he's scared that you just completed a straight. Maybe he's scared that you have 8, 7, and you just hit a straight. Okay, moving on to the river. To the river we go. All right. This is an interesting river. This completes a lot of straights. Anybody with an 8 or a 3 right now has a straight. And it completed a flush if you had 2 clubs on the flop. Probably didn't, but maybe you did. So let's say, okay, it's action on the big blind. Let's say he decides to bet. Let's say he decides to bet $6. There you go. And now the decision is on the cutoff here. He can fold, call, or raise, right? So if he decides to fold, then that's that. Hand's over. If he decides to call, then both players flip over the cards, and whoever has the best card wins this pot. And if he decides to raise, then the action's back on the big blind. So let's say he decides to raise. Let's say he just decides to raise to all in. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 20. So he's calling the 6, right? And then raising an additional 20. Okay. So that would put big blind all in. So he has really just 2 choices. He can call or fold. And let's say the big blind folds. There you go. That's the end of the hand. And the cutoff wins the whole pot. You didn't have to do any showdown. So that's one simulated hand in poker.